Excellent. So what we wanted to do with this was just have a kind of a natural flowing conversation. I like to call this CAD managers on the comfy couch. And two of my favorite CAD managers here with me. This is Don Broussard. He's has tons and tons of CAD management experience. He's been a 25-year CAD manager at Hunsker, and he's now a consultant at Fusion Engineering and Technology. He's got a lot of experience migrating from other CAD systems, shall we say, to BricsCAD-based CAD systems. And over here to his left, in my left, is Lauralee Connors. She is at Subsea 7. She is the CAD manager in charge of implementing Bricsys products at their Houston location. And we're very glad that you could join us as well. So the first question I just kind of wanted to throw out to you guys is, what made you look at Bricsys products in the first place? Lee, ladies first.
So we wanted something where we are a global company and we're spread across many countries. We wanted something that was more flexible in the licensing and to be able to work across multiple zones, because with our current CAD system, we do have a lot of restrictions. So this will allow the users to be able to pick up from time zones and not get charged for every time we open a CAD application. It's much faster deployment and for customization. We have a lot of existing customization that we've had years. It was easy. We translated it all over to BricsCAD without any effort. And cost-wise, like I said, can't beat the cost.
Yeah.
And what else we got? And
Okay, so we're done. We can all go home.
we're done. Yeah, no, that was our highlights. That's what drove it mostly, was our licensing.
I want to delve into some more of those topics in a little more detail, but Don, let me ask you same question. Right? What made you go to Bricsys in the first place?
So all the time we're trying to get better with the tools we have. You're trying to make your engineers and designers better at their job and making the tools better to do their job. With other CAD, we got to a point where we were at a dead end and going, with these tools, that's as far as we can go. When we looked at BricsCAD, it was to say, hey, we need to keep moving forward. And that wasn't available with the other stuff. So,
Let me ask you both this question. You can take it in whatever sequence you want. Were you ever skeptical? Were you like, hey, what's this BricsCAD thing? Is this really going to work for us? I mean, is this too good to be true? What did you think at first when you started looking at it?
Well, I hadn't heard of it up until a UK colleague of mine said, hey, if you got time, Robert and Heidi were going to be in town. Do you have time to meet with them or whatever? So I put it on my computer, I think 2 days before, just to take a little test spin. Straight out of the box, it was no different than the CAD application I used. So I was like, right then and there, I was like, okay, this is good. And then when it...
Except did it look kind of white to you when you first pulled it up?
I'm not a big lover of the dark scheme, so that did not really deter me at all. Mine's still a lighter version. Yeah, the white's a little bright, but...
Yeah, okay.
It was just a...
sure, I was skeptical.
Okay.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Past experience, and then in between testing a lot of software, you'd get, on some of them, you'd get 50% through your testing going, yeah, and then you'd hit a roadblock. And so I was skeptical. I was skeptical after we bought it. I was still waiting for those things to come up, and they didn't, which is good.
So in the U.S., we have a saying that people are from Missouri. Missouri is the show me state. So show me that it works. And CAD managers tend to be that way. So, right? I mean,
right.
So, so I know you both, and I know that you both, really kind of did your due diligence, but it really is kind of surprising that it works as quickly as it does, or at least it was to me, right?
That was impressive with the speed, because like I said, we have drawings that we've opened and we've watched it churn and go for a cup of coffee and come back, and BricsCAD did open much quicker.
Cool.
And the deployment, I think we clocked it at 42 times faster than what we could deploy our current CAD system with.
Is there a quote there? 42 times faster deployment?
Hey, that's what the IT peep quoted me. 42
Nice.
times faster, and it was 3 times faster to open and run Lisp routines that we had in place.
Cool. Let me ask about once BricsCAD became a valid option in your mind, where did you go next? Was it licensing? Was it cost? Was it technical validation? I mean, what was your path for exploration and validation?
So it working technically, I mean,
so that's first?
That's first.
Okay.
And, in this world, you're used to hurdles you have to work around. But once on the technical side, once it works there, If the licensing I didn't like, I would have put up with it, right? I would have just worked around it like you do with other
Right.
things, right? But once it works for the engineer and the designer and fits in that process, you're going, that's a win. And everything else I would have dealt with, but didn't run into many things at all.
So after technical, what was next? You
Licensing.
did technical first, right?
Right.
In your case.
Yeah, I took it for a test run, and then what we did, because we were not looking to send it out to the heavy users. We were looking to send it out to about 1,000+ engineers that are using this, not every day in their job. And we wanted to find something that would help replace that and ease the cost burden.
Okay.
So we sent it actually to the super user in each region. So we figured if they were happy with it, engineers would have no problem accepting it because it was more than what they currently have.
And what was the feedback you got?
It had the look and feel of the same system that we have. It's just faster.
That's nice.
So.
I can't write this stuff. That's why we have. Yeah, all right. So getting back to Lee, you talked about this a little bit before. What was the degree of difficulty in terms of migration for you? You had a lot of customization. You had palettes. I mean, I was able to visit you and see your stuff. And we had a few days worth of work to get that knocked out, but
Pretty much. We had a short timeline because you were in the office in April, did a quick drive-by, like I said, demoed it, and we took our list of all the criteria that we needed to meet because we're very versatile in the deliverables we have to do. And I think August you were back in the office, and we had already gotten the approval from the engineering directors to move forward that it was going to be an option for us.
Okay.
And then we start migrating our CAD desktop, which was a heavy CAD desktop. And we trimmed it down a little bit because we don't need to give it all out to the engineers for what they need. And had that done in what? You're in the office total a day?
yeah. Yeah, and that's, that was one thing I really agree with, by the way, in terms of what they did. They had, decades
Yeah.
of experience on the other CAD platform, and so they actually took the initiative to clean house
Yes.
and only move the good stuff over instead of the decades and decades of accumulation.
And IT would have still liked it a little cleaner. But heck,
You'll get there, I know. Don, what was, how did it go for you?
I mean, we implemented it slowly. So we didn't force it on anyone. We introduced it in our office. And like I said yesterday, we were doing training and we'd use BricsCAD as the tool before we were forcing it on anyone. And they just got used to seeing it. And, there's a lot of feedback similar to hers that, wow, that's faster than what I'm using. That was obvious in some of the stuff. And then we were able to open drawings that other CAD and the vertical had killed and we couldn't open them. So that, it became a part of a process. Sometimes where you're going, my drawing's locked up, we're opening it in BricsCAD to fix it, and then they would continue to work. But it was a slow thing that we introduced over time, but it was well received.
So that was a purposeful decision on your part, right?
Yes.
Rather than cut and go, it was more of a fade-in approach?
Yes.
Okay.
And driven by the users some too.
Okay.
In that, because you get pushback, for any kind of change,
Sure,
good
obviously.
or bad, you get pushback all the time. So, but it was a conscious decision for that.
Okay. So Lee, when you said you pushed to power users in every region, what level of preparation did you give them, or did you just throw it at them and say, here, check this out?
yeah, we told them we're looking at this as an option. It'll be deployed to your machines in a couple of days. Have a look at it, go play with it, give us any feedback there. And I think out of the 8 people we sent it out to represent the regions, we got one comment back. It was on the VBA, because we do have VBA in our CAD desktop. And no problem, we just had to
Added that.
add the executable in it, and it's just like, worked great.
Okay. On user training, Don, what did you see? I mean, I know when I put BricsCAD in front of people, initially they're like, the interface is a little different, and within a course of about 30 minutes, they're like, yeah, I can use this. I mean, is that about what you experienced? Or?
So it's a little different for us because we had years of customization and things we had done to other CAD. We changed the CUI completely in that, and it was intermixed with our Lisp routines and tools and things like
Right.
that. So one of the steps we did was to customize BricsCAD's interface to look exactly the same. So when a person went and sat down, when they were using other CAD or BricsCAD, the ribbon and toolbars and all that stuff was the same customized thing they were used to.
Okay.
So
So to both of you, from a CAD manager's point of view, you both customized the tool.
Yes.
And you both had legacy customization that you had to support. How hard was it for you personally? I don't mean like from a user point of view, but just for you personally to get in there and get your arms around the feature sets, the customization, and those types of features?
I didn't find it hard at all. I like the fact that it's all in one tab, so you can just do search. The search took a little while to get used to when you're looking for something, but
The
as opposed
settings
to
command, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
this thing, clicking through all the tabs to find out, it's like it's in a tab somewhere. But now just being able to just go up and throw in a keyword and have it go right to it, I found that to be took a little
Okay.
use to get used to, but
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, the customization in BricsCAD is like everything else. It's much faster and easier. Over time, what happened is we're maintaining other CAD and BricsCAD side by side.
Right.
And it was, for me, really frustrating to go to other CAD because you'd type CUI and then you'd wait. Where in BricsCAD, you're going fast, I got it done, and then move forward. Over time, actually, we stopped putting the no good stuff in other CAD, partially because I was going, I don't want to go deal with it, and partially
Right.
to help, so, but it's much easier.
Why support two when you can
Right,
support
right,
one?
exactly.
Just
And-
economy of effort,
Yeah.
right? So in terms of like a training or a rollout philosophy, Don, I guess I'd talk to you because we've got a couple years in the rearview mirror. I mean, would you have done anything differently? How did you approach it in terms of rolling it out to a bunch of users?
I mean, I don't know that it's successful, right? So
Okay.
when I'm looking back at that, it's not something that didn't work. So I don't look at it the way very often on what I've done differently. There's so many failures in the past for things that you count the successes and go, yay, right?
I like it.
Yeah.
Same question to you, Lee, man. And I know you guys are really kind of in the beginning of doing big global push, but in the way you exposed your power users to it at first, I mean, was that the optimal way to do it? I guess what I'm asking is, if you imagine another CAD manager out there, how would you tell them to do it?
I would say go to, if you've got super users in there, that's kind of like there, because we know the engineers are not going to use every aspect of it or use it as heavy as some of the drafters. But again, if it meets the drafter and say, oh yeah, this is great, then it really shouldn't be. And we've set up, like I said, some easy customization for stuff they've been asking for that we never really put into the CAD. They currently have, because it would have meant we would have had to walk to every machine and install it. So right now we've actually bundled it with it. So when they launch it, it'll start up with their templates. It starts up with a couple of quick tool palettes they can use. So we're hoping that will kind of help with the transition. Say, look, it looks just like you have now, but we've added this too much for it. So
you're kind of getting a fresh start, is what you're saying.
yep. So we still have to roll out the communication. So hopefully we get that rolled out before they see this.
Okay. Just speaking specifically about customization, Lisp code, CUIs, any hiccups, or did that go pretty well for you?
I mean, it went real well. The major difference is we're using a bitmap for toolbar and menu icons in other CAD, and we're using a PNG file in BricsCAD. But other than that, it's seamless. I write a lot of Lisp routines and do a lot of
Yeah, I know you do.
macros, and almost without exception, they just work in both. I don't have anything to manage on that at all. The same
Okay.
tool works, and so from that standpoint, really straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah. See, for our tool palettes, we have bitmaps and PNGs mixed in there. So working fine, no problem.
Now, I know you specifically, Lee, I'm going to ask you because I know we had to do some things with dynamic blocks at your location, but that's one of the things that you hear about BricsCAD as well. They can't do dynamic blocks. So can you speak to how you guys are consuming and using dynamic blocks in your environment?
So though we can't author them, we can use them because we have them. We've set some of the equipment up on the vessels and everything to use dynamic blocks. We have a lot of libraries built on them. And that was one of the tests that we actually had to do while the engineers are not creating and they don't use them as much as we do. When they take the drawings that we actually give them, they have to be able to just manipulate them. So, and that was all fine. All we needed to do was, the glyph does not come in like some of the CAD applications. So as long as you found that in the properties bar, it's great, works fine, no problem. And it works, again, faster.
Yeah, I was going to ask just what's your impression on speed of graphics?
Oh, and that was one of the other things we had, because the machines for the designers are much higher end than the ones we have for the engineers, and it works. That was what we really liked. The hardware has gone down considerably to what we need to run it.
So do you feel like you can squeeze more life out of your hardware
Oh,
due to
definitely.
BricsCAD performance? Yeah, I hear that a lot too.
don't need the towers, the mobiles that we have. We don't have to upgrade to a fancy video card, more memory. That's been really nice.
Same question, Don.
I mean, same answer, right?
Okay.
I mean,
Perfect.
right? Why add to the perfect answer for that? It's faster, right? I mean, it works.
It is
So-
what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I wanted to ask, kind of a couple of wrap-up things. I mean, if you had to go back and do it over again, is there anything you would have done differently in the discovery process, or anything you could recommend to a CAD manager who might be looking at replacing other CAD with BricsCAD?
Based on my experience, no issue with the software. I would just recommend you talk to your IT manager to see how they plan on deploying this. For us deploying it globally, they use an SCCM system, and the way we did it was in batch files, specifically to user and drives, which they don't do. So we've had a little bit of a hiccup as to come back and revamp it to get it bundled. But other than that, no. Customization, everything. Do it exactly the same way as we did it.
Okay.
I would recommend doing it a lot quicker than we did for people, but that's because I
Well,
know the
that too.
answers to the questions now. So when we were going through live and going, the skeptical question, I was still waiting to get somewhere down the road and go, oh, we hit something that's a roadblock or something. And so when we were moving there and going slowly, it was part me getting the experience, our users getting the experience, and we went slowly. Now I'm confident and would say, go fast. There's no gotcha down the road,
Okay.
right? So that's the big thing for that.
Have either of you really had a chance to dig into some of the features that aren't, like, when you go in and you replace the existing CAD platform, you're not thinking about Blockify, you're not thinking about Parameterize, or some of the additional features? I mean, is there anything in the new feature stack that looks attractive or that you're looking at rolling out?
So 10s for us are going to be big.
Civil set.
The civil side, because we're civil. So some of those things we haven't aggressively, Blockify specifically or something like that, hasn't worked into our process very much yet, but 10s are going to change that because we still have, in certain cases, people are using old list routines out of habit to do grading things and stuff like that, even though they don't have to. But this is much more powerful. We're not just creating some 3D line sitting there in space to use somewhere else, but to be able to manipulate a surface while we're doing it and some of those things.
Okay.
So,
I know maybe you haven't got that far yet, but
No, but looking at it and knowing the audience or who we're rolling this out to, the Blockify will come in because they tend to draw things and then think about, hey, if I have to change one, or as a drafter would just go in and make the block in the beginning. And so that will come in handy, and the quad cursor definitely.
okay, cool.
Because they don't want to have to go look through. Again, I've been using it since DOS days, give away my age, so used to typing. So the ribbons are there just because they're there.
Right there with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So majority of the engineers and, like I said, some of the younger generations now, they just want to focus on the ribbons and everything and using them. So being able to go and say, hey, it's intuitive to know that if I use that, here's everything that I have, and then the little pop-up menu instead of the quick properties, I think. That was a nice little thing. I think they'll really like that.
Got a philosophy question for both of you. Is it better to jolt people with something radically new, or is it better to make BricsCAD work just like what they're used to and then gradually change?
I think a combination, right? You want to go, here's the new sexy thing, and get them excited about it, but at the same time, have the comfort of going, you don't have to change your world today, completely to be using it. But to just go, here's something boring in front of you, continue to do exactly what you're doing, right? Why bother at that point, at that point? If you're just going to do exactly the same thing,
Okay.
it's not worth the journey.
Is there a threshold of difference there? Like, you know what I'm asking? Like, how much change can you really get away with when you migrate to a
As
new
much
product?
as we possibly can to improve without them
Okay.
really knowing that, trust me, this is going to make it much easier for you to use. You'll be more productive in that in it. So like I said, we've introduced a lot of the customization, which they're not going to use at first.
Right.
But for the fact that they do some of the conceptual work and then hand it off to drafting, this will help us because it's just like if you just follow these couple steps, when you give it to us, we don't have to go redesign it, re-standardize it, and everything else. So
Okay.
we built it in. Whether they use it at the moment, it still will make it easier for us to say, hey, just use this now.
What
Get your
kind of
drawing
thing-
back quicker.
I'm sorry, what kind of things did you change by default? Like, did you change background colors? Did you, enable or disable quad features? Was there anything you changed?
We changed very minimal. All we did was pull the PDF import out to the front because it's not something they have right now. We use a third-party software for it,
Okay.
and this works much better. And we put in the communicator, the step-in, which we use a lot of third-party data that we get,
Okay.
and that's not something they use too much. So we brought those buttons just out at the forefront, put in a couple of tool palettes just for our text setup, added the layers and our dimension scales, because of course we work across the globe, so we have to deal with imperial in the US and metric everywhere else.
But you really started from the drafting workspaces.
We did drop, that's the one
Right.
that we did start with and just added, and the only thing, I think we brought a button out for the 3D, but other than that, it's pretty much the same as, it was good out of the box.
Okay.
It's just we wanted to tweak it a little bit.
And you started from the customization you had before?
Yes. So
Okay.
we had done a lot of customization before, and part of making the transition easy was to take all that customization and just include it in BricsCAD.
Okay.
And so,
Lowered your training cost, right?
yes, right, training non-existent.
Okay.
Non-existent for the
Okay.
move.
I've never been yelled at because it's easy to learn either.
No, but the learning
Right.
curve is next to nothing in it. Because like I said, just installing it for the first day I tried it and just take it out. I was like, okay, it does all this. I type those shortcut keys in. It's just like, okay, works as expected.
You're pretty good, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here because we only have a few minutes left. So if you were going to give a CAD manager like an overall recommendation, why should they look at this? Why should they explore it? What would your 1 minute speech be? Or Don, I'll start with you.
Robust, fast, right? It's easy to show somebody right off the bat. Just open the application and their eyes open right then, quickly. It's continuing to improve. There's innovation, new innovation included. When I was looking at it originally, you were just going, it's other CAD and BricsCAD and they're the same. That's not the same anymore. It's BricsCAD's like this, and other CAD's just a 2D drafting workspace, right? That's right. So,
You're good, man.
Yeah.
You're good. Lee, same question to you.
Definitely the cost. Like I said, to get the cost down, it doesn't matter if you're a small firm, big one. This is just phenomenal what we'll actually save on this. And then, like I said, the quickness of it and minimal hardware requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And zero learning curve, which is when we're trying to launch this in the middle of a very busy work schedule.
Yeah, you got the PLM launch and everything else going on. Mm-hmm. And just one other thing. Just go, gosh, it's not up on there, but her company is called Subsea7, SUBSEA number 7. Go on their website and look at the stuff they do. It's absolutely fascinating. Underwater oil service, and it's just one of the coolest plant trips I've ever taken. So, hey, thank you both very much for joining us today. Thank you guys for sitting through the Comfy Couch session. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks.